Have you ever thought about the danger of a good pastor? Maybe you are very aware of the danger of a bad pastor, of a greedy pastor, of a hypocritical pastor, of a pastor who's, on a power trip. But have you ever thought about the very real danger of a very good pastor? A pastor whose teaching stirs your heart, a pastor who just gets you, a pastor whose empathy and compassion just draws you in, a pastor whose prophetic, powerful gift to call out cultural flaws, it just fires you up for the kingdom of God. I thank God for good pastors, for amazing podcasts, for preachers I find on YouTube, for preachers I see in my community. But today, I want you to think really carefully about the danger of a really good pastor. In 1 Corinthians, actually multiple chapters, the Apostle Paul had to address this problem. The Christians at Corinth got so attached to certain pastors and certain personalities that good thing became a really bad thing. There was fighting about who was the best pastor. There was divisions, and there were some people, it seems, who wouldn't really listen, maybe wouldn't even go to church if it wasn't their pastor who was preaching. Paul said this in 1 Corinthians 3. He said, "You are still worldly. For since there is jealousy and quarreling among you, are you not worldly? Are you not acting like mere humans? For when one person says, 'I follow Paul,' and another person says, 'Well, I follow Apollos,' are you not mere human beings? What, after all, is Apollos? And what is Paul? Only servants through whom you came to believe, as the Lord has assigned to each his task. I planted the seed, Apollos watered it, but God has been making it grow." Well, I think this is such an important word for us today because we live in a culture that has more access to more pastors than ever before. You, with just a couple clicks on your phone, with a simple search online, can find the most wise, educated, deep pastor. He doesn't have to live in your community. You don't have to know him personally. You can hear every single sermon he preaches through the power of media. And you can find the most relevant pastor who just knows what's happening in the next gen. He's not old and washed up, and he understands the shows and the movements and what's happening on college campuses, just speaks to the stuff that you're going through. Or you can find a pastor who's just so compassionate. He's not dropping truth bombs. He weeps with those who weep. He understands the complexity of your... Such a good thing, but it's such a dangerous thing because once we get too attached to this really exalted version of whatever we appreciate, it's really easy to dismiss, dislike, and even avoid the real pastors that God has put into our life. If we like his preaching so much that we won't attend the actual preaching happening in our community, if I'm ignoring a passage like Hebrews 10 to gather together with other believers because, this pastor just isn't as good as Pastor A, B, or C that I watch online, then Paul has something to say. Are you not acting like mere humans? If God has called a man into ministry and he's being faithful, he's preaching sound doctrine, he's giving you sin and salvation, the law and the gospel, your struggles and Jesus as the ultimate solution. If we dismiss a faithful pastor, if we give our thumbs down to a man that God is giving a thumbs up to, then a good pastor has become a bad thing. The human heart, as some have said, is an idol factory. We can take any good thing, even our best friend, even this country, even our kids, even our pastor, and love it so much that it becomes a God thing, which is a really bad thing. So today in our podcasting world, I just want to warn you, man, I might seem like garbage compared to your favorite podcast, or you might really connect with my messages and be tempted to dismiss your local minister. Let's avoid that very common temptation. Paul dealt with it seriously in 1 Corinthians. Let's deal with it seriously today. If someone's preaching about Jesus, if the Spirit is using their message to convict and comfort real sinners, let's thank God for such pastors. Let's let good things and good pastors be good and not God, so that we can avoid the bad.